Fundamentally, I think it's quite optimistic to think about sci-fi because that means that there is a future. If you have a good science understanding and you add a thin layer of intuition, that's okay. I love to say that mathematics, simply put, is a way to save ink. Matter can be used to compute because matter can do transformations of the input signals into an output signal. Consider that in your brain you have about 400 types and subtypes of neurons. I have something which is computing something, so how can I adapt to what it's computing so that it's useful for me?
That is Fred Jordan, scientist, entrepreneur, and co-founder of FinalSpark and AlpVision in Vevey, Switzerland. A trained physicist with a passion in science fiction, Fred is pushing the boundaries and disrupting our technological landscape through his work in pioneering anti-counterfeiting technology and, more recently, in biocomputing through his deep tech startup FinalSpark. Fred has not shied away from acquiring new skills in biology and thinking differently in order to chase his passion and fascination for making ideas that have to date only been known in science fiction a reality. My name is Peter Marcus Bach, and this is the Grand Challenges Podcast, a show about inspiring individuals who are stepping up to tackle the global challenges that our world is facing in their own unique ways. We reflect on the many out-of-the-box ways our guests have navigated the complexity and intricacies of the environment at the cutting edges of science, engineering, technology, and design. On today's show, Fred and I dive deep into his incredible journey, from seizing opportunities to work with early supercomputers to building two major startups in completely different areas. Fred shows us how mathematics is truly a powerful tool to save ink, and that using the real thing in biocomputers or Organoid Intelligence can either challenge or complement our current semiconductor and AI industry and significantly benefit the planet. Detailed information is provided in the show notes over at petermbach.com/podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and please enjoy the show. Fred, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for welcoming me.
And thanks for welcoming me in Vevey, this beautiful city in the French part of Switzerland.
Yes, absolutely. On the border of the lake, and it's sunny today, so you're very lucky.
Very, very lucky in the autumn weather. I think by the time this episode comes out, it'll be midwinter or at least the start of winter. So listeners, I hope you enjoy listening to the sun, not that you can hear it. But yeah, looking forward to getting into a topic that is so intriguing that I don't know how long I spent reading up on different aspects, and also heavily inspired by sci-fi as well. So, yeah.
Yes, there is a lot to read these days about biocomputing. I can tell you it was not the case 3 years ago.
No, definitely. And, based in Vevey, I have to get this off my chest. I really have to visit the French part of Switzerland a lot more. But apparently, when I was trying to figure out where Vevey was and what it was known for, supposedly milk chocolate was invented in Vevey in the late 1800s.
Okay, you know even better than me.
It's only based on what I read about. And it's also Nestlé's birthplace.
Yes.
Yeah,
and Nestlé headquarters is actually so, worldwide.
I have a colleague who lives in Lausanne and works for Nestlé there. So, yeah. But as we said, sci-fi. I'm certainly a fan of sci-fi. When I read fiction, usually sci-fi is the choice. I guess it's the fantastical worlds and I guess some of the very interesting concepts that are, shall I say, cautionary tales for where we are heading in the development of the human race. But tell me, what does sci-fi mean to you? You seem to have a very big obsession with sci-fi novels.
Well, it's less an obsession than a pleasure, And I always loved sci-fi, which is not very original, by the way. Okay, so many people love sci-fi. So, but the fact is, I never go to bed. Never, without reading some sci-fi. Okay, This is the last things I read, and every day is sci-fi. Okay, so I always have a Kindle started on a sci-fi book, and sometimes I read 10 minutes, sometimes half an hour, and I don't know why. It's the way it opens your mind, I think, in the future and what could be possible with intelligence, and I think sci-fi maybe. You have negative sci-fi, okay? But fundamentally, I think it's quite optimistic to think about sci-fi because that means that there is a future, okay? And it has been built by intelligence of people. And these are humanism and positive things, which I fundamentally love, and I love science. So
very, very interesting, actually. And you see in the industries, when we see the rise of AI or even just computers, early computers and screens, how certain sci-fi authors came up with the idea even long before these technologies existed. So I suppose it's not so much chicken and egg, but maybe the inspiration for how we then name our developments, where we progress in the development and advancement of our technology as well.
Yes, I would say, you know Icarus. This is a Greek myth,
Yes.
I think.
Yep.
It was sci-fi actually, somehow,
Interesting way of putting it.
Let's put it this way, okay? Not directly based on the science, okay, which is half of sci-fi actually, so right. But still about the idea which was behind it, it was about flying, right? And human flying, like incredible dream, giving incredible capabilities to a human being. And this is a very sci-fi thinking actually. And this has been dreamt about 2,000 years ago. And it took how long to make our first plane? Like, dreaming was really long time ago, okay? And then only way later, people started to do it for real.
Yeah, actually very interesting if you look at it that way. Yeah, the story of Daedalus and Icarus who flew too close to the sun and the wings burnt. On the one side, dreaming and visioning what could be possible. And at the same time, I guess also already recognizing the double-edged nature of some of these dreams, that there's caution to be had when we're also trying to innovate and try and anticipate the problems ahead of time.
Yes. Don't get too close to sun. This was the moral.
I think on the beach, when you're in summer holidays, it's probably the same rule as well. Don't get too close to the sun or too long in the sun. But nevertheless, I mean, what are some favorite authors of yours?
No, the first thing is that I have a very, very bad memory, okay? I don't know if it's a lack of neurons.
Foreshadowing, listeners.
The connectivity. But therefore, I am never able to cite the author I'm reading right now, okay? Even though it's the third tome of this one. But I've read all what has written Arthur C. Clarke, and I think several times each of one.
Okay.
And I was thinking about positive thinking, okay? And the look of Arthur C. Clarke is really about this, about humanism, science, and engineering seen as all together, matching very well, okay? And this, I can appreciate this. I'm a pure geek. Okay, when I was young, when I was 12 or 13, I was spending sometimes all my summer vacation in the dark.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but I mean, writing software. Okay, on a ZX81, which is a 6502 processor. So I've always dreamt and lived in science and technology from the very early days.
And Arthur C. Clarke, I guess the most famous work would be 2001: Space Odyssey, amongst other works that he's written. But I see your point. It's about, humanity and technology coming together to explore new frontiers.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I guess, these space-based space exploration books, or do you also look at other subgenres in the sci-fi like cyberpunk, so the technological human interaction?
So first, I read exclusively so-called hard science. Okay, so no fantastic, no other things for me. And now when I select a book, normally it has to go in space. Okay, if you're not in space, some of the books of Arthur C. Clarke were not in space at all, okay? But normally I prefer this. I don't know why.
Interesting, yeah. Yeah, I tend to go for the space ones as well. I mean, I have read a few, but I think the one I remember most fondly is The Three-Body Problem from Cixin Liu.
Whoa.
Yeah, which I must say that the third book really did my head in, but there were some incredible aspects in that book, and listeners, I can highly recommend the trilogy if you're looking to pick up sci-fi. Also, Arthur C. Clarke being a classic. But I've also dabbled in some other authors. So, for example, Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. So after seeing Blade Runner, I said I should go and read the original. So that was also quite interesting about the human-machine relationship and what does consciousness mean in a machine, and how do we accept that machines have a consciousness or can develop a consciousness? It's a really big topic of the debate today in today's world with AI.
Yes, absolutely, and it comes even more, I would say, critical when you do biocomputing, because then you're blurring even more the lines.
Exactly. And there's a book on my shelf, which after our show today, I'm going to have to definitely start reading because I was completely blown away by how much sci-fi can inspire. And that is William Gibson's Neuromancer, where some of these ideas of biocomputing, which we'll definitely get into, but of course we're geeking out right now with sci-fi.
Yeah.
But apparently some of these early ideas, including terminology, supposedly emerged as well.
Yeah, I think I read it, and I guess at some point it inspired me, at least subconsciously.
But yeah, certainly classics. I definitely enjoy a good sci-fi. So maybe after this, I'll get more recommendations from you as well. And we have to do some book exchanges. But either way, biocomputing, long journey you've taken, incredible journey as well to get to where you are now. And I'm really looking forward to diving deep into the topic as well. But I guess to set the scene, I mean, you actually got a PhD in applied mathematics from EPFL back in 1999, but you're in biocomputing. I suppose first question would be, what inspired you to go into mathematics instead of pure science, given your inspiration for science and technology in your childhood?
Yeah, but first, I have an engineering diploma in France of physics. Okay, so I'm a physicist actually, and I selected my engineering school when I was young only based on the fact that they trained on quantum mechanics, because I loved and I studied quantum mechanics way before entering the school, and this was my reason to do engineering school. It was to study this. So I love physics; it's really my thing. Okay, but then we had. This is one of my love, okay? But I have another love, which is supercomputing. Okay. Uh-huh. Well, actually, the basic love is computers, but the top love is supercomputer.
Just like the word super, sits on top.
And it's just to realize when I was studying engineering, I had one teacher, and she was working on Cray supercomputer. Cray still exists today, actually. And I was honored to know someone who was working on Cray supercomputers. So much that I was loving supercomputers. Okay.
Interesting.
But so just because my life is a lot of just pure luck and things which are not, like this. And, at that time in France, you had to do your military service. But you could avoid this if you go to science for 1 year, science for the military.
Interesting, yeah.
And I asked for this, and then government approved. And they gave me a very interesting position for 1 year when I could I could work on simulation of nuclear explosions.
Oh, wow.
Because it was at that time, the idea was to stop nuclear explosions and just to simulate them. Okay. So the president of France, Jacques Chirac, decided, okay, we're going to buy a supercomputer.
Uh-huh.
And guess what? I was exactly in the site where they bought this supercomputer. So we received this supercomputer, and because in this state of things, people are not really efficient, nobody was using it. But I was already working on artificial neural networks at that time, because with a friend, we already published, just for fun.
Just for fun.
Yes, about the mathematical properties of multi-layers artificial neural networks. And I had this computer, and I wanted to study temporal artificial neural networks, okay? Normally, when you do artificial neural networks, the temporality is not taken into account most of the time, okay? Yeah. But I thought it was very important because this is how it works in our brain. But I was 25 at, okay? And this president buy this supercomputer, I get it, and I realized nobody's using it, so I asked the permission, authorization to have access to it, create supercomputer, T3D. They were one of the first in Europe, actually. And and suddenly, I am the user of a supercomputer Cray, and I was like, it's my dream. It's the dream of my life. I will never get so high in all my life than to use this for 12 months.
What an opportunity.
Yes.
I mean, it's just sitting there. Hey, can I just use this quickly?
And so I used it for 1 year. I was almost crying when I had to end this military service because I was quitting my beloved supercomputer. I made a publication also out of this one on the temporal artificial networks based on the supercomputer simulations that I used. And what happened by a pure coincidence, it happened that a second supercomputer of the same type arrived in Switzerland at the EPFL and financed by Cray Research. And the thing is that in my engineering school, I had a girlfriend, okay, and she was very good. She was the best of the school, basically.
Okay.
And basically, I was the worst.
I'm curious to see where this is going.
Yeah, I have to pick. And because she was so good in France, there are some sort of agreements between states. So some quota of the best students of France can go to EPFL. So she received a letter from EPFL saying, "Do you want to make a PhD in Switzerland?" So she said, "Yes, but you have also to take my boyfriend."
Oh, that's nice.
and in this lab, actually, was having access to the supercomputer. Yeah. And I was one of the very few in the world who had the expertise on this particular kind of supercomputer. So although I was a bad student, I would say.
You had a unique selling point.
Yeah. So the professor accepted, of course, to take her for a PhD and to take me. And then I had the opportunity to go on working on this supercomputer and make finally a PhD in signal processing, which was one of the topics of applied mathematics.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to actually ask, like, the difference between, I guess, the fundamental mathematics or theoretical mathematics and applied. I mean, I guess one deals a lot more with the proof of theorems, whereas the other one is actually trying to use the maths in a practical way.
Because I talked with a lot of media, okay, and normally the title is signal processing, okay, but nobody knows signal processing, what this means. It doesn't talk to people, okay, but you can see what is written on my screen here, okay.
Just looking over the board and I see an integral from negative infinity to positive infinity.
Yeah, do you know what it is?
Well, I mean, it's the surface under a curve as far as my high school calculus and university first year calculus serves me correctly.
Nothing else? You can do better. Come on.
I went from civil engineer to environmental engineering, so my math skills, I think, went down over the time. But do enlighten me.
So this is the Fourier transform.
There you go. See, I did that once for like a whole month, and I studied for the exam, and then I forgot about it.
No,
afterwards.
You shouldn't. No. Revise this. You should have always this in your head. And the formula above it, all right, is a cross correlation. Okay, that means how can two signals can be checked for matching. Okay. All the money we make with the first company comes from the first formula.
Interesting.
Okay, all we do. Okay. And this is fueling FinalSpark. So important mathematics here. So this is a perfect example of what you learn in signal processing. These kind of things.
Interesting. Yeah. So it's all based on Fourier transforms and this idea of working with sequences in series.
Yeah, absolutely. But you should know that there are many other ways to project functions than the Fourier basis. Okay? There are many other bases of functions. Okay, this is one example. And you can use this, for instance, to encode and compress videos or audio.
Now you got me more interested again. I find that in mathematical education sometimes in universities and even in high schools, they lack that application aspect. And I think it makes it harder for students to then understand why are they actually trying to solve something. And it's something you only see much later. Like nowadays I can see the sense of, a lot of the numerical methods I'm using to solve equations. And I guess one thing I heard which really put into perspective for me is that a lot of mathematics is about pattern recognition as well. I'm thinking trigonometric identities, being able to convert one form of the equation into another. And they say algebra is a shortcut to arithmetic, whereas calculus is a shortcut to algebra. And once I heard that, I thought, actually, it kind of makes sense. But why didn't they tell me that when I was learning it?
I love to say that mathematics, simply put, is a way to save ink.
To save ink?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the more you get abstract, the more you save ink and your symbol become more and more powerful.
Wow. So I'm slowly warming up to the idea again of mathematical notation. So now we'll definitely put a picture of that in the show notes, listeners, so you can see what it looks like.
But I can tell you for sure that what we are doing in biocomputers, there is a lot of mathematics.
Yeah, I can imagine. And also in artificial intelligence and anything. I think math is a skill that applies in any kind of domain that we're in. I think if we can think of or we can use certain mathematical aspects to our advantage, then I think we come much further in saving ink.
Yeah, there is a field though where math is really has a big problem. Okay, I tell you. Yeah, absolutely. I realized this coming from one field to the other one, which is biology. Okay? And particularly in neurobiology, we really have a problem here. There is a fundamental flow, I would say flow, okay? In the mathematical formalism, that it doesn't work. There is something wrong here about this formalism. I don't know how to put it more clearly, but it's very easy. You read neurobiology books, you will see very few equations. So there is something, and this is one of the big problems that we have.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. And yet when we think about the current neural networks that we're using, a lot of it is mathematically expressible, but it is all mimicking or based and inspired by neurobiology.
Yeah, it has been overly simplified to match mathematics.
Yeah, I guess it's true.
But it's not normal, actually. Normally, an abstraction system should be used to model reality. If you modify the reality to match your abstraction system, there is something flawed. So
No, definitely. I mean, I can relate to that, being a modeler myself. I mean, I do simulation models and I do, I guess, accounting models, call it that, water balance and so on. And yeah, ultimately, simplification of reality. And you got to be aware of what its limitations and assumptions are as well.
Yes. And the problem is that I think to some extent you can simplify reality in some fields, like in physics. I think in many ways it doesn't work in biology because details matter so much that by oversimplifying, your model doesn't work at all at the end of the day. And this is one of the big things.
Actually, it reminds me of a story I heard of physicists, I think, trying to help a farmer. I don't know where the source is. But I think the just to sum up the story about simplification, they basically said, yeah, let's assume the cow is spherical.
Yes, I remember this one. Yeah.
I actually have a book that's titled that, and it's about environmental problem solving. So I'll have to look that up again. But it really amused me. And I think for anyone going into modeling, that story should be a nice dinner table conversation that you can use to explain the field you're in. We digress a lot, but nevertheless, I think it's nice to get a bit of a sense of, where mathematics plays a role. And in particular, I think you're already highlighting in biology, or neurobiology especially, it's not as clear cut. And I think as we get deeper into this, I think we'll see why as well. But I guess prior to FinalSpark and after finishing your PhD, one of the big chapters of your life is AlpVision.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about AlpVision.
So AlpVision, when we made a PhD, I met a colleague who was doing also a PhD with my wife, and we were studying a field called digital watermarking. Okay, digital watermarking is basically, I would say, the art. Okay, it's not an art, but let's have fun. Okay, let's see that we are artists, and to hide information, invisible information, into digital medias, which can be audio, video, or images. Okay, in a way that you don't see it, you can not remove it.
Yeah.
Okay, but a computer can decode it. Okay. So even if you put it an image, you compress JPEG like hell, you can still decode it. You take a picture of the printed, you still recover it, but you still don't see it.
Interesting.
Okay. So that was hot in the 90s, I can tell you, okay? And just by chance, we were one of the first working on this field. And as always, when you are one of the first, you don't need to be smart because everything that you are going to be is going to be referenced later. Because you are the first. That's the only merit of being the first. And the same applies for FinalSpark, by the way. So we designed some algorithms to do this successfully. And then after the PhD, we have to make a living. Okay. So we had to say, okay, we have some algorithms to hide information. How can we use this to make a living? So let's create a company, okay, and use our wonderful technology. And we tried a number of things on how to use this, and most failed, okay? We tried to detect a fake identification plate for cars, encryption of information on CDs where the key was hidden in watermarked pictures printed on the CD.
Oh. Jeez.
Yeah, very simple. But at the end of the day, one of the things that we tried was to print something invisible on a box that you could recover the existence of this invisible printing, which was done on a HP printer that I bought in our garage.
A normal office printer?
Yeah, nothing special. We had no money, so it was fine. And we could put this on a box. This was a small yellow dots, actually. And using our algorithms and the document scanner, because there was no smartphone at that time, okay, we would put the box on the document scanner, scan it, and then run our famous algorithm, famous for us, to detect the invisible coding. The software was called a GK PGS because it was a GK Jordan Cooter because it's our both names, and PGS like pretty good signature because that was pretty good privacy. So and I heard that many years later, GK PGS was still in use at EPFL, it's a Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, to train students. Actually.
Interesting.
Thanks so much. So anyway, and then we were able to put this invisibly on boxes, and then we presented this to brands. And brands told us, but that's wonderful because that means if it's a fake, there will not be your invisible thing. And if it's the real, there will be invisible thing. But in both cases, you don't see anything.
Essentially anti-counterfeiting technology.
Absolutely.
Or verification that, I guess, that Louis Vuitton bag is actually a Louis Vuitton bag.
Yes.
Or, that this, I don't know, can of Coke that you bought is actually a can of Coke.
No, absolutely correct. Yeah. So that was a field that we didn't think about is anti-counterfeiting.
Interesting.
And then the people started to pay us a few thousands of Swiss francs for this, and then more and more and more. And at the end of the day, and we find a business angel, we invested 600,000 Swiss francs. So we were happy for 3 years.
Very nice.
After 3 years, we burnt all the money.
Oh, no. Round 2 funding, as they say?
No, because it was October 2003. We burnt all the money, correct, but we were break-even at the same time.
That's a perfect money here.
Good startups. Yeah. So we never had to raise money again. And then we started to hire one employee. Well, first we hired ourselves, an employee, and et cetera. And 10 years later, we bought back all the shares for 10 times the price to the business angels, a few millions. And I think now we're 17, and we have offices in New York and Shanghai, and we protect each year 30 billion. 30 billion. That's
it's
incredible.
Insane. I was reading the stats on your website. I mean, 20 years of innovation, 80 plus patents. I mean, they're not exactly cheap to file as well. But 30 plus billion products.
Yeah, per year. Every year. Okay. I mean, and all this boils down to mathematics and the equation I showed you before. So this tells a lot about the importance of mathematics. Innovation, it's not about coding. If you really master some mathematics, you can make real cash with this, okay? And I'm talking about here pure profit because we have no investor, no debt, nothing, okay? So we have to, and we are in one of the most expensive countries of the world.
And this is true.
It's not easy.
Just to remind listeners, I'm based in Switzerland, so is Fred. So yes, we do feel the McDonald's meal when we go buy it. Supposedly the most expensive in the world, but we get by. But incredible. I mean, and you do the verification now using a smartphone, and you can sort of tell whether that product is an original or not. And in a way, this technology and the way you print it onto the product, you call it a cryptoglyph. So I guess part cryptography and also the glyph being that symbol or that signature.
Yes, it's correct. So it's a word that we invented. Okay. So one thing that is cool is that if you look up cryptoglyph on internet, we are the only one using it. It's basically our trademark. Okay, wonderful. But the bad thing is that we have no customer who are able to write it correctly or pronounce it correctly. So, it's a company. Imagine, it's a company made by geeks. Okay, so we have nothing about marketing or we knew nothing about nothing else than signal processing, basically. So, so we made all the mistakes that you can imagine when you create a startup from the ground.
But they say it's a learning experience, and I guess mistakes are good. If you fail early, then you can, come back better.
Yeah, if it doesn't kill you, as they say.
That's always the risk, I guess, that you have to take. But I guess, you work in the areas of pharmaceuticals, tobacco, spirits, lubricants, precious metals, also with government.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing that appeared very clearly is that the fact that you don't see anything, pharmaceutical love this. Because, because big pharmaceuticals, they have tens of thousands of boxes of new design each year. If they modify a design, each design must be validated by the authorities.
Interesting.
Okay. So the selling point here, which was unexpected, of course, okay, I would say, is that it's invisible, okay? And so that was the good thing. But the second thing which appeared very clearly, and this appeared also in the tobacco industry, is that it doesn't cost anything to print.
Ah.
Yeah, very clearly. We very early realized that if you print something on an industrial machine using normal inks, basically it doesn't add any cost.
Interesting.
So then at this point, we had a killer without, it's just by chance, actually. And when the smartphone came, we had the perfect thing because you have in your hand something that you can detect, that you cannot see, that costs zero to print. So all the planets align.
I mean, that's incredible when you find out that it actually has no extra cost to implement.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, in some cases, we even have a customer when we are able to demonstrate that we decreased its production price.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because in one variation of our technology, we are creating some small holes in the varnish layer. Okay, yeah. All boxes have a varnish layer. Mm-hmm. And if you are able to create holes, you actually use less varnish.
That's true.
So if you print billions of these, then it can start to make a difference. And in this case, the yearly license that we asked for it was lower than the economies was made.
Oh, wow.
Very, very special.
But it also harks back to the message of mathematics can save you ink, quite literally.
It is not unwanted. It was not, we didn't plan this actually.
But sometimes, happy coincidences, as you've already mentioned, lots of coincidences from chasing supercomputers to now you're really striking it big with this idea of cryptoglyphs. And I mean, being in Switzerland, I'm also just reminded you often see new technologies emerging in Swiss culture around anti-counterfeiting, such as the Swiss passport. I've been seeing videos of that. And they use all sorts of different kinds of signatures to prevent counterfeiting of passports. And apparently they're manufactured in a very secure location. And it's a combination of laser engraving, biometric data chips, and, just RFID chips with security embeddings. But yeah, something as simple as a cryptoglyph, I can imagine that it would be such a good opportunity because of that no extra added cost.
Yes. Well, first, you are absolutely right about Switzerland's tradition for security.
Yes.
Okay. And that's a wonderful asset, actually, for us as a company.
True.
Okay. The Swiss banknote is one of the most secured banknote in the world. Okay. I guess one of the variables is that we care less than others about the cost.
That is true as well.
But we are also in some banknotes. Okay, so we know about this field. So anti-counterfeiting is a very good match, and it's about trust also. Very good also for Switzerland.
I was going to say they've built a reputation of trust.
Yeah,
and people will always relate security, and I guess that precision. If you think the watchmakers as well, the precision in the engineering to Switzerland, other than Germany. I mean, being German, I have to stand up a bit for my country there with precision. But security, trust, I mean, it's the perfect location to then build up AlpVision.
Yeah. One challenge that we had, because it took about security, is when we say that the product is genuine, we'd better be sure. Okay? Because the only thing that we invented is instead of having someone looking at a hologram or special paint and saying, I see an effect. So that means it should be the authentic one. We said, no, you are not going to do this. From now on, you are going to trust a machine to tell you something that you don't see, that you cannot see, that you cannot guess, and that means the bad guys cannot guess it neither. And this machine is going to conclude for you. This was the only invention, okay, conceptually. And the problem of this is reliability. And I can tell you, when smartphones appeared, and customers asked us suddenly that we had to be reliable by detecting micro holes of 40 microns spread across our packages, while holding a smartphone that is taking pictures with an accuracy of a few centimeters.
Yeah, back in the day, the earlier ones had low megapixels.
Well, it doesn't change. Even today, it's the same. You are still a human being, holding your smartphone with a few centimeters, and holes in the varnish that we create are still
the same 40 microns.
Yeah. So, and this again is about mathematics. Okay, it's about cross-correlation, real-time, computed, and making sure we are way above the level of false positive.
It's incredible when you start going into the statistics of it as well. I mean, success will depend on basically avoiding the false positives.
Yeah.
But Also getting, again, sci-fi vibes, this human-machine integration. Asimov comes to mind, with the sociology and, humans, I guess, relationship with machines. And in a way, it's given us a convenience. I think a lot of the technological advances, AI and also smartphone technology, allows us to now do these things. And in particular, with the smartphone, detecting the how do you call it, verifying the products.
Yeah.
I think it just is a no effort way.
Yeah, but there is something that Arthur C. Clarke that was saying basically was saying like any sufficiently sophisticated technology cannot be distinguished from magical effect. Okay. And I tell you, when I take my app that we develop, I know the mathematics and I use it to detect invisible things on packages. I can show you this later. It's real time.
Definitely.
Okay?
Yeah.
It looks like magic.
Okay.
Even though I understand exactly what's going on because it's instant and you don't see anything and it says a conclusion.
Hey,
so,
that's me with QR codes. I already think that's magic.
Yeah,
I'm holding a camera there and then all the information just appears. And I'm thinking surely two codes have to look the same, but apparently not.
No.
So it's incredible how far we've come.
But now we do even better because what happened as a development is that we had some customers that came to us and said, well, Fred, okay, we want to authenticate our products, but unfortunately, our products are not in boxes, okay?
Uh-huh.
These are products, for instance, in plastic. And I want that you authenticate directly on the plastic, and we cannot print on the plastic. Please find a solution, okay? And if people ask me to find a solution and they're ready to put, hundreds of thousands of Swiss francs each year, okay? If it works, I tell you, we're very motivated to find a solution.
Oh, definitely.
And we found a wonderful solution. You see this keyboard here, for instance.
Okay.
You see it's in plastic.
Yeah.
And you see the microphone here, okay? This part is metallic, okay? This part is plastic.
The microphone holder, yes.
Yeah, microphone holder, okay?
Yeah.
They are produced with molds, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the structure that you see here comes from the mold, which has been sandblasted.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if you know where I'm going, okay? So instead of saying, I'm going to put some predictable holes at specific locations all over my package, I can say, I have already some defects all over these plastic parts.
Yeah.
I've not decided them, but they are still here. And they are always the same location for the same mold.
And that's a signature.
The only thing I need, which is new, is to take a reference image and I'm done.
Interesting.
So, and believe it or not, when we started this in 2007, fingerprint technology is called. Okay,
yeah.
We started to make more and more business actually. So, and we started to secure many things in all fields. Like it was not only plastic. Today we are, I think, the leader provider of solutions to detect authentic gold ingots.
Okay, wow.
So you can go on App Store. You type, for instance, this is the only customer we have the right to name. Okay, it's PAMP, P-A-M-P. You type PAMP App Store. And you can get the app, which we made the technology for this.
Nice.
And you can authenticate a gold ingots, but very small, like 1 gram. Okay, it's released for the general public.
Okay.
It's a consumer-facing app with fingerprint real-time authentication technology.
So if you have an ingot of 1 gram of gold, you can just hold your smartphone there with this app and it authenticates
we have
it.
tens of thousands of users of this.
Wow.
We deployed this, I think, 7 years ago. And you can see the market. It's very good, actually. People love it. So, and we are deploying this on other brands of, I would say, gold refiners.
Interesting.
So it's an expected application of the same thing, actually. So the core idea was not to make holes at specific location. The core idea was how to detect them. And this comes back to the formula I showed you before. This is the cross correlation.
And mathematics at the end of the day. No, incredible. So lots of success with AlpVision and everything, new types of application coming and finding a lot of momentum as well. But now you've also got FinalSpark. And so I guess I want to draw that bridge there to FinalSpark. And so why then start something new? What was the motivation behind it?
Well, the fact is, Martin and I, it's always a story of Martin and I.
Yeah, your co-founder, Martin Kutter, yes.
And we love our fundamental research.
Yeah.
We love challenging things and we love science fiction. So, things that really are. And initially, just making a living using our inventions was already wow, okay? But once we've done it, it was not much that wow.
Yeah.
And that wow was still imagining things which have never been done by mankind before.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's think big, okay? Bold statement.
Yes.
And we said, okay, what is the most incredible thing that we can do? Let's make a thinking machine. We know, so we are in 2014 sitting together and we know that Google is already investing billions of dollars with thousands of people. We are two, again, in this story. Let's still believe that by thinking differently, we can have an alternate way to do despite the lack of billions of dollars.
Some new excitement as well, I guess, to explore.
Yeah, of course. And we started FinalSpark on these premises.
Okay, to build a thinking machine.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
By thinking differently.
And I guess AI was all the rage because I think it was also around that time when you started to see the first deep minds and deep blues come out, beating professional world champions in chess and Go. I think Deep Blue was a bit later. But nevertheless, you're seeing lots of advancements in AI technology and computers that start to, I guess, mimic, neural networks gaining new momentum and starting to mimic human thought and decision-making as well. But I guess one thing that you always mentioned as well as part of also FinalSpark's mission is, you're trying to really go back to the fundamentals. It's not just about statistics. Neural networks essentially, a good friend once told me, neural networks is essentially a giant regression model.
Yes, absolutely. I was hoping that you would say this.
I mean, you're always trying to find a point within the bounds. It's not really extrapolating. And creativity, as we talk about with Gen AI, is really just a combination of different ideas, but within that regression model. Another friend said if we had ChatGPT in the Stone Age, we would still be in the Stone Age because we wouldn't be advancing. But yeah, I guess the worldwide mission is this race towards artificial general intelligence, AGI, not just AI. And so you're thinking differently because the fundamental belief is that where we're at with our current AI technology, it's not going to get us there necessarily because of those very reasons.
Well, we started off, difference was the keyword from the beginning, okay? And at that time, you're right, but it was more about number crunching than a large language model, okay? So AGI was still pure science fiction, okay? And Turing test was still also science fiction. Turing test is, I would not say science fiction today.
Yeah.
It's not anymore.
Okay? Not anymore,
right, okay? So we were at that. And initially, the path that we took were more using unconventional method, but still digital methods, okay? We wanted to be disruptive as we could, but still in digital world. Okay.
Yeah.
So we, for instance, we worked a lot on genetic programming. I don't know if you heard of that.
I've heard of the term, yeah, but I'm not entirely familiar with the methods.
All right. not to confuse with genetic algorithms. Okay.
Yeah.
So genetic algorithms, basically, you have variables, and you have, for instance, 100 variables. You are going to create a vector of it, and you want to optimize these variables.
Correct.
What you do is that you create two vectors, and you say each vector is like an individual, like a being, an entity
in a population. Yeah.
And then you are going to test how well your first one vector performs in the parameters of a system. Your second vector performs, and you have, I said, a population of vectors like this. And then you are going to do a crossover. That means take pairs of them and mix them and replace, okay, like daddy and mommy, okay? And you try the child again. And you're also going to add random mutations, okay? That means you are going to exchange one of these 100 values for the others or change them randomly, okay? And this is a very well-known algorithm that works quite well, surprisingly. Okay? But there is another way to do this. Instead of having vectors, having software, source code, okay? That means the individual, this time, is not a vector, is a source code. So what we tested is actually evolving source code.
Evolving source code?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the crossover was between source code and the mutation in the source code. So this is disruptive, okay? And at the end, we've written this entirely in assembly, directly in a language machine to be as fast as we can on x64. We've been running like this for weeks, billions of, and at the end, we were able to have, for instance, a Pong working this way. And that was incredible because the source code doing the Pong, we had a hard time to understand it.
You talk about Pong, the computer game.
The game, yeah. Okay. So when you have a hard time to understand the source code that has been produced by a machine, we thought it was interesting. So this kind of thinking was we were thinking always differently. That means we can test any idea to the condition it's not reasonable. So it was like this. Or like, I don't know if you know a liquid state machine.
Again, a term I've heard of, but I'm apologizing for being a bit of a computer. How did they call it? Illiterate at this stage.
So liquid state machine. I tell you, there is a wonderful publication that everyone should read. It's about speech recognition in a bucket.
In a bucket.
Yeah. In a bucket. How can you do speech recognition? Come on, Fred, you're not serious. Yes. I tell you.
Curious.
It's really liquid state machine, literally. Okay. So, and I love this one because it explains everything. And it's used today in reservoir computing. And so you have to know. Imagine that the idea behind it is that matter can be used to compute, because matter can do transformations of the input signals into an output signal, which can be complex transformations, which can be useful. Okay, this is the premise.
Yeah.
Consider, for instance, a bucket filled of water. You have now billions and billions of molecules of water.
True.
Imagine that you want to modelize this. You would need gigaflops of computing power, okay, to modelize this. Okay?
Yeah.
So you have actually already a sort of computer which is not doing what you want, but it's doing something which may be useful. So you take the problem differently that we do normally. You say, okay, I have something which is computing something. So how can I adapt to what it's computing so that it's useful for me?
Interesting.
Very interesting way of thinking, right?
There's actually a theory I was reading up on in preparing for this particular episode, and I'm guessing it's relating to that, and that is Alan Turing's morphogenesis model. The idea that chemical interactions can produce complex patterns without centralized controls. And I guess it also reminds me a bit of complexity theory, where the most common example being Conway's Game of Life, where every individual within a particular system has its own unique behavior, and the behaviors, even if they're repetitive and simple, they come together to that emergent whole, which oftentimes we can't really tell ahead of time, but it's almost like magic the way it happens.
Yes, correct. So the common points of all what you say is that you take the existing and you realize that the existing things, the nature can produce a very complex things, even starting from simple things.
Yeah.
And the behavior of water, by the way, is the same.
Yeah.
And here the guy said, okay, I'm going to use this for speech recognition. So it works like this. You take a microphone. With the microphone, you control an actuator, which is going to touch the surface of the water. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you speak, it's going to create some riddles, some waves around. Then you have a camera which looks down and you see the waves.
Tracking vibrations.
Yep. And here you have a transformation of time to space-time. This transformation is used now to recognize phonemes by the way of the shape of the waves. Okay. And it works at the end of the day. Okay. I don't say it's the optimal way to do this. Okay. But it's an interesting way.
Yeah.
And nowadays, it's called also reservoir computing. Okay. I don't know if you heard about this name.
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
Okay. So reservoir computing, and it's used actually with biocomputers. So it's good to know it. It's basically, you take a bunch of artificial neurons, for instance, you connect them together randomly. Okay. Okay. And if you have an input, you're going to, you take one neuron as an input, one another neuron as output. Okay. If they're connected randomly, you have maybe a random answer, but a complex processing in between.
True.
Okay.
True.
And according to what I said before, if you have a complex processing, you may be able to use it if you adapt to what is actually done. So in a reservoir computing, you never change actually the weights of the connection between your neurons. You use them as they are.
But you just connect them differently or randomly as a result of it.
You have to process the input and the output so that what is done in between is useful for you. So you take the problem differently.
Interesting.
Okay. And often, actually, you use an actual artificial neuron to format the input and to understand the output so that the middle thing does something useful.
That is the conventional way, yeah. I mean, that's what they call the model training. And so when you download models also from the open source repositories, you're usually downloading the weights. So
yeah, correct. What is strange here is that the middle is done randomly. Basically, the weights have been chosen randomly, okay? But the result is still deterministic, okay?
Yeah, okay.
And I talk about this as alternative way of thinking because today, you can do processing with water, with artificial neural networks, but you also with biological neural networks. Okay, you can also have a bunch of neurons connected randomly, and you excite some of neurons. Others are going to answer. Okay, so it's some processing occurs, and if you adapt the input and output, you can use this existing processing, which you have not decided, to do something possibly useful
with real neurons.
With your results.
Enter the biocomputing.
Yeah, so water, artificial neurons, and biological neurons all work with reservoir computing.
Fascinating. And yeah, bio-based solutions, as we call it, because looking to nature for inspiration, We talked about the complexity theory. We talked about how, these neurons can fit together and how essentially AI now is trying to just mimic how the brain works. But rather than trying to mimic it, why not go straight to using the brain itself? And essentially that's what you're doing in FinalSpark and really the essence of biocomputing.
Yeah. So, it was about luck, this. Okay. I would love to say that it was a visionary, whatever, but the reality is not this. Actually, the first employee we hired, it's again military service, which comes into play, but it was Swiss military service. Okay. He had to do the military service in somewhere. Okay. And he was able to negotiate to basically work at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology.
Okay. Yeah.
In a lab that was not chosen by him. That was a neurobiology lab of Professor Markram.
Okay.
Working in the Blue Brain project.
What is the Blue Brain project?
So it was a very big European project. Basically, and the goal here was to model human neurons.
Okay.
To have mathematical models.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So he has not chosen this. And if he had been able to choose, he would not have chosen this department for sure. That's the beauty of randomness sometimes, okay?
That is true. And serendipity, as we've used on the show before as well.
And then he was working on things called patch clamping. So patch clamping in neurobiology consists in really coming with a sort of needle directly inside a neuron.
Okay.
In order to stimulate it or to read its, I would say, voltage.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you do this with two connected neurons, okay, you are able to characterize the synapse that links them.
Mm-hmm.
So he was working on this. And at the same time, we were also working on digital models of neurons.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why we made the shift at some point. Because I remember we had to, because we didn't have so much money, but we bought some used HP computation cards. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And
reminds me of the HP printer that you had in your
HP again. And we buy many of them to compute actually.
Yeah.
And one thing to compute was actually to compute the state of our temporal neurons.
Okay.
So most of the neurons in artificial neurons are not temporal models, okay, but we're working on temporal models. But consuming kilowatts for modeling few hundreds of neurons.
No, definitely, yeah.
But of course, it didn't have any problem here with consumption in this case because the neurons were living. And so at one point we said, okay, we are not going to scale this because we are consuming several, but I say 10 kilowatts for 100 neurons, okay? In our brain, there is 100 billion neurons. It's not going to work, okay? It's very good to say, okay, we are FinalSpark, we're going to be disruptive. Yes, but there is some reality that
energy can be that limiting factor.
Yeah. So this is not acceptable, okay? As an engineer, you have to know no, it doesn't work, okay?
Yeah.
And of course, we quickly realized that the power efficiency of neurons, biological neurons, is way, way higher, okay? According to publications of Professor Hartung 3 years ago, it's about 1 million times more power efficient, okay? So basically, where you have a problem before, you don't have a problem after.
No, definitely. The topic of energy is definitely a very big argument for biocomputing. But I guess in order to really go deep into that and to understand it, I think let's try and enlighten the listeners as well about in detail, how does it actually work? So, biocomputing, using neurons, real living neurons, and linking them. And in some cases, it's done differently, but essentially on a silicon chip.
Yes. And the problem for us was to make the move.
Okay.
As you said at the beginning of this conversation, okay, I'm just a physicist and a guy who knows a bit of mathematics.
Yes.
Okay. There is nothing here about biology.
And you've already mentioned that biology is a bit more confusing because for some reason the mathematics is not exactly compatible.
Yeah. So the only tool that I know a little bit is not working there. So it's fine. Yeah, so I'm totally. So, and then we were like 45. When you're 45, okay, and you say, okay, you have some expertise which is recognized in some field by some people.
Yeah.
And suddenly you realize that you are going in a field when you are you're rookie. You know nothing. You are not legitimate, okay? And that was the big thing actually for us to say, okay, we want to be disruptive. Really? Do we want to be disruptive? Okay, so let's go out of our own field.
Because
this is where you have disruptiveness, when you are at the intersection of fields which never meet normally.
True.
And here we couldn't ask for other people to do this jump. We had to do it ourselves. And this started with really from scratch. We had also fantastic opportunity to work in what they call the start lab, which was very like a niche, for startup companies.
Okay.
And if you were a startup company, you had the right to use a cell culture lab, okay, because we didn't know anything about cells, even less cell culture, okay.
So you had zero knowledge of biology.
Zero.
Not even from school.
I mean, well,
Yeah.
from school, but
The fundamental
I
basics.
remind. So it never that much inspired me. Okay, biology, because it was messy, complicated, not easy to model,
And not explainable by numbers and frameworks.
I had little sympathy for this. Okay, but as an engineer, I had to recognize that it was useful to do this jump. Okay, and I would say as a science fiction guy, I love this idea. Okay, so we really had to take some lessons, and so we got to this lab. So there was a lot of startups, and they were, all with white coats. Okay, they looked serious.
Yeah.
And the first thinking that we had when we entered the building is that we are going to be rejected by the security.
Yeah, because you didn't look the part.
Yeah, because they are going to notice that we know nothing. Okay, so and so we were able to access the lab and to play a little bit. And I knew a girl who was in neurobiology. And she said, okay, if we can pay you a little bit so you can tell us what to do with our hands, actually. We're in front of a pipette and, so read the basics. And she taught us, and we also bought, this camera, a GoPro camera that we fixed on our head.
Yeah.
So we told her to do things, okay? And then we recorded. And then we looked afterwards to the movie to see how she was doing, okay? And of course, she was explaining also the theory behind cell culture. And we started to do our first cell culture.
Interesting, yeah. I mean, I've never done a cell culture too, but I know the lab can be quite messy and sensitive, as you said. Cell cultures especially, if you're not careful, contamination can be very, very dangerous or can just ruin, I guess, hours of work and hours of preparation.
Well, actually, years, even does. And also, you don't have Control Z.
Yeah.
So if you make a mistake, there is no undo. Okay.
That's true. Unlike computers or mathematics, where you just tear up the paper and you start the proof from scratch.
So that was the big thing. It was not and then only to do this and then to say, okay, even when we had our first cell culture, it was about to learn electrophysiology.
Okay.
Because remember, when you know nothing about nothing. So we know nothing about not only cell culture, but brain organoids, electrophysiology, microfluidics, microscopy, and RNA sequencing. You have to learn all this, okay? Otherwise, we cannot even discuss actually with people. And we found other professors who taught us actually, gave us some particular courses for a few thousands of Swiss francs, and this was a fantastic. Now, actually, one of these professors is part of our advisory board still today.
Oh, that's perfect.
So
they can check if you've learned stuff.
Yeah, well, I think it's okay. And how you make actually multi-electrode arrays and things like this. And finally, we invested and bought everything to create our own cell culture lab. So instead of doing 50 kilometers to go into the start lab, be in the same building as our company.
And yeah, visiting here, I noticed that, yes, it's both AlpVision and FinalSpark in the same building. Very practical, I must say. And yeah, it helps you, I guess, manage both businesses at the same time because, while AlpVision is really moving along pretty well and pretty rapidly as well, FinalSpark has been growing and gaining lots of attention as well, especially in the recent years. But I guess coming back to the idea of biocomputing, and so some early history, we had, I think, since earliest mention I found was this idea of using computers and biological elements to do the computing was in 1994 from a USC professor, Leonard Adelman, where they were trying to solve a mathematical problem, supposedly the Hamiltonian path problem. So this idea of if you have a graph of multiple points, how can you draw the shortest path that visits all points exactly once? Apparently using DNA fragments or DNA theory to try and solve it and using chemical connections between there. Fast forward, we had a few other major advancements where they then used E. coli as well to try and switch on and off genes to sort of signal fluorescence. Then there were some other advancements in Boolean logic. But I guess really one of those milestones in what we call biocomputing today as well, and that was in a documentary that you were also featured in, was the ability to actually build a real biological neural network that can play Pong. I feel like Pong is the litmus test for all these technological advancements. And once you get to that stage, it's like you're on the world map.
Yeah, right.
But ultimately, it is literally neurons from a nervous system that you take from human cells and you culture, you grow, you link, and then you connect that to some kind of, as we said, silicon chip that can then process information coming out of them. Is that the simplest way of describing it?
Almost, yeah. Because when you talk about cells, okay, you have to differentiate between primary cells, okay, and stem cells. Okay. If you take primary cells, that means you take a living body and you take out the neurons.
Yeah.
And you don't do this normally with human beings.
No, that wouldn't be ethical.
But this is done routinely with rats, for instance, okay?
Yeah.
So what you said that basically we take neurons, so we don't really take neurons. What we take is cells from the skin, for instance. There are other parts of the body that works, which are differentiated cells. And from them are created induced pluripotent stem cells. So the pluripotency is induced. And because they are pluripotent, they can become any kind of cells. And from these cells that we buy, actually, we are going to differentiate them into glial cells and neuron cells, which are the two types of cells you have in your brain.
Okay, interesting.
And one bonus, which is important. Since these are still stem cells, they can multiply virtually infinitely. So think about it. When we do cell culture here, often we have to stop
the multiplication process.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, otherwise we will get too many of these neurons.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And essentially what you create from these cells is what they term in the literature an organoid. So it's like a 3D literally organ, but that's not from in the human body itself. It's a representation.
It's a sort of wannabe organ.
Wannabe.
It's so we call it an organoid. It's not exactly that like the real thing. Okay. So consider that in your brain you have about 400 types and subtypes of neurons. Okay. So when we create an organoid, it's not only a brain organoid. Okay. It's going to be a hippocampal organoid, a striatum organoid, a cortical organoid. Okay. So we are going to define the kind of area of the brain we want to differentiate the neurons in. Okay. And you have to know something else, which is important, is that the neurons that you get are not as the real ones, okay?
Yeah.
As primary cells.
So it's not a one-to-one copy.
No, because when you do differentiation, we do it our own way in the lab. It's not like in life. So we can see this very precisely, actually, with RNA sequencing. That we do, so we can see which genes has been expressed, and from this we do know if we are missing, for instance, some receptors or things like this, and we can characterize precisely. Actually, we can, and we have actually some neurons which cannot exist in your brain.
Interesting. Okay, they cannot exist because they're just incompatible. They wouldn't be good for you, or
it's just that the differentiation system that takes place in your brain is not the same as what we have in our lab.
Okay. So, but essentially you're accessing the full toolbox of possibilities of these organic materials.
Yes, we have the full toolbox, but we don't know the rules exactly.
Okay.
And it's not only for biocomputing now, what I'm saying, it's for all the people who are doing organoids, because they are not only brain organoids, have the same problem of trying to have a correct model for the human beings. So there are two advantages. You avoid killing animals.
Yes.
And also it's more realistic.
Yeah, that's true.
And you can have specialized medicine that is for a human person, a specific person, you can have its DNA and use it to create organs on which you perform some test before doing for real.
Yeah, I guess other than biocomputing, organoids are more commonly already used in drug discovery or disease treatment, trials, things like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of uses for them, but essentially, why not another use, which is biocomputing?
Well, actually, everything about what we're doing at FinalSpark and all companies working in biocomputing is just piggyback on other things which already existed before.
True.
We are piggyback on iPSCs, on electrophysiology and cell culture.
No, that's true. But I guess once you have this organoid, then essentially it is a functioning brain, so to say. It can supposedly do problem solving, and all that's left is to train it.
Yes.
And coming back to that Pong example, I mean, what was fascinating about that and why this, biocomputing is, I think there's a huge future there, because when you think about AI systems, that game of Pong, supposedly it took 15 rallies for the biocomputer to play just as well as it would take an AI system. I think the number was in the thousands of iterations. So I think the level of training required is much quicker than what you would a conventional AI system. And, that has all sorts of other implications, energy as well. And we will get into that because that in itself is probably one of the biggest arguments. But essentially, there's this, and I think they call it the free energy principle, which essentially means everything is constantly trying to perceive and understand the world and minimize the surprise. So all living things. So any self-organizing, so biological system here, adaptive system must minimize its free energy, so to resist a natural tendency towards disorder.
Yes, so this is the free energy principle of Professor Friston, indeed.
Yeah.
And I tell you, it's used potentially to define a reward. Okay, That means if you stimulate regularly a nervous system, that means regularity means a predictability. It may be recognized as a reward. And of course, if you stimulate randomly, it's going to be considered as a punishment, right?
Yeah.
So this is a principle, by the way. Okay, that means it has very good mathematical foundations. Okay, also based on analogy with physics, which I didn't fully understand, I must admit.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's not demonstrated. Okay. There is little literature on this past the accomplishment of cortical labs on this game of Pong using free energy principle. Okay. There is another kind of reward. So we're talking about reward and punishment here. Okay.
Yeah.
That we use is everything related to dopamine. So we try to reproduce the reward system that exists in our brain. So the problem is that nobody really knows what a reward is.
Okay.
And the dopamine normally is not the reward. The dopamine is made by the neurons, dopaminergic neurons, okay, when it predicts that there are going to be a reward, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, it's the difference between what happens and what is predicted.
An anticipatory kind of mechanism.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let me get this straight. So you can train these neural, these biological machines or these biocomputers similarly to how you would normally train AI system. But in an AI system, the reward is usually the optimization, in the gradient descent, where you then tell it, well, you're doing better and you're getting it close. And so therefore minimal adjustments are needed. But in a biocomputer, you're literally giving it dopamine.
Yeah. Let me get further to what you're saying, okay, with the difference. I think the difference, as you are saying, is very important to understand things, okay? Yeah. You are going further than this. When you go in artificial neural networks, you know what you have to do, okay? But you know also how to modify the weights.
Yeah.
Okay. And you do modify the weights yourself explicitly. Okay. Now, when you use a reward either Friston principle energy, freedom energy, or dopamine, okay, you are not explicitly modifying.
You're allowing the system.
You let the system take itself the responsibility to modify adequately all the synaptic connections in order to maximize the reward. It's a very different bet.
That is insane. I didn't think of that, but that is, and I guess that's, in a way, we're doing the same thing in our brains when we have these chemicals being secreted. Yeah. Well, dopamine being one of them.
The thing is that here we make a bet. Okay. Yeah. And the bet is that there is a mysterious, okay? Because we don't know it, okay? Training system, which is already wired in our nervous system. And what we only want to do is trigger it to make it work. Okay, that's it. And we are not into understanding how it works. We just make it work. So reward. So we're trusting the system that is going to be able to learn, assuming that we give proper feedback according to the answer that we want to have.
Assuming nature knows what to do and we let nature take its course, essentially.
Yeah, but it's a very bold bet.
It is very bold, although it is based on centuries, millennia of evolution as well.
Yes, yeah. The only problem that we have, okay, is that we don't have a full brain here.
Okay, that's true. You have an organoid. But hey, it is a pretty good simulation to begin with.
Yes. An argument why it could work is that even bees are able to learn. Okay. So they are very, very different from us. Way simpler, but still able to learn. Okay. This has been, there has been many publications showing the ability to learn of bees. Okay.
Yeah.
And that means there should actually be something. Okay. But as far as I know, I don't know everything. I'm not aware of any explanation of the internal learning process that we have either in bees or whatever. That is using nervous systems. Okay, there are a bunch of assumptions, of course, but nothing clear. So if you talk about companies in biocomputing field, okay, and if you talk, for instance, about Cortical Labs or FinalSpark, we are there very much to make it work. Okay, we're a bit less interesting to how it works, but it must work.
I guess, part of it is trust. But then again, I mean, if you try and open up an artificial neural network, you're also going to run crazy trying to understand the weights. But essentially something works. I guess it's this, emergent phenomena in a complex system as well, or using complexity theory to, I guess, build that trust that the system knows how to organize itself.
Yeah. Don't forget something very obvious. Imagine that, okay, you said, Fred, okay, stop now. Okay, you are going to stop using a mysterious principle. Okay, and do it by yourself. Okay, it works very well with artificial networks. Okay, do it with biological networks. Okay, so with artificial neural networks, you have tensors, you modify the weights, and it's done. It's training. It's proven. Okay, just do the same thing. Okay, and stop about your automatic learning. Okay, okay. And the problem of this is that I would love to do what you say. Okay, but there is a problem is that I don't know how to access each of the synaptic connections of my networks. This is not a tensor.
You're looking at synapses versus tensors in a digital version of it. And it's a fascinating field. And sometimes, they say, we can understand what's, in space. We have a good understanding there, but we still don't know the depths of our own oceans, let alone, how our brain works completely. I think we understand a lot, but we're still missing a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, I think here you're touching about things which can be modeled by mathematics and those which cannot.
But hey, I have to, of course, touch upon the fact that you're still, trying to mix the mathematics and neurobiology when you found that has been the biggest hurdle. But nevertheless, I mean, it's fascinating to see that, you can really mimicking that natural process and using dopamine to then, guide the learning process and trusting that it will know how to get to the answer on its own. I mean, I think it's fascinating. How do you then actively administer the dopamine? So you have this, if I can try and picture it, and you actually showed me the lab just now, we had an interesting look at some samples under the microscope as well. But essentially it's this tiny box, I could call it a petri dish with the organoid in it on a silicon chip sending signals. So how do you then control it? Do you have a computer that's steering it?
Basically, we have electrodes. Okay.
Yeah.
This is why it's called electrophysiology.
Yes, true.
So you have electrodes interacting with our brain organoids. So it's very obvious, actually. Basically, we put the brain organoids on the electrodes. We measure our action potential, like 50 microvolt. Okay,
microvolt. Okay.
Yeah, microvolt.
We're in the micros here, so just to remind myself there.
And this is one of the big problems that we have is noise. And then we can also send some signals. Like 1 microampere again. Everything is micro. Okay. So it's not a lot, but for them, that's enough. Okay. Yeah. And with 1 microampere, you can have some neurons answering literally to you with 5 spikes, for instance, and you're happy. Okay. Or they won't. Okay.
Interesting.
So this is one thing. But the other way, because you're asking about dopamine stimulation, for instance, it doesn't work with the electrodes. It's one. Okay. It works with light, surprisingly.
Light.
So for this, we are using a principle called caged molecules. Caged molecule is basically a molecule which is in a molecular cage.
Okay.
A molecule in a molecule. Okay.
A molecule in a molecule. A metamolecule.
Which is another molecule, basically.
Yeah. Essentially. Chemistry.
So we buy this. Okay. It's you can buy this on the internet. The problem, it's called caged dopamine. Okay. And what you get is a big molecule with part of the molecule being dopamine and the other one is not doing anything but prevents dopamine to be active. Okay. And they are linked together. So now the trick is that they are linked but not very strongly. And you can break this link using ultraviolet light. So you see the point?
That's where the light comes in.
That's where the light comes in. So what we put our caged dopamine into the medium. The medium, it's where our cells are alive and happy.
Mm-hmm.
And when we want to release dopamine, we just shoot some 100 milliseconds of ultraviolet, and it's done.
And it releases it.
Yeah.
And so you measure these with the electrodes. You measure the voltages and the potential. Or I guess you measure also the current that these neurons emit.
Mm.
And that essentially is that training data, right? It's the result of what they're supposed to do in their task, right?
Yeah, well, typically, you can do whatever you want, okay?
Yeah.
Typically, we select a few electrodes as the output,
Okay.
a few electrodes as the input,
Yeah.
and the dopamine as the reward.
Yeah.
Okay, this is one setup, which is possible, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But you could mix them. For instance, you have to consider that we don't use only neuromodulators like dopamine. We use also serotonin and glutamate. Glutamate, which is one of the most famous neurotransmitter, for instance.
Yeah.
Okay? So with glutamate, you can actually perform stimulation. Okay, and just this, I think this afternoon we are performing the one experiment with the glutamate uncaging with our internship here.
So really using biological neurotransmitters.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mind-blowing to really just see how biology is just in full swing here, and it's really merging with computation and technology.
Yeah, because what is striking is that all this is programmed in Python.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because
it's something I actually understand.
Because we have API actually to release dopamine, API to measure signals, and API to have stimulations, electrical stimulations. Okay, so basically we are just running Python script, which are the full experiment.
Wow, perfect.
So very easy, okay? And if you want to run it again, you run it again, and we run it for 24 hours, and that's wonderful. So we can run exactly the same experiment with different types of organoids, for instance.
No, fascinating. I guess when you think, biological systems, then of course, then you mentioned just now the replication from stem cells. It can actually replicate and grow pretty quickly, and you have to stop it. But what is the typical lifespan of these neurons? Because I guess they're not there forever. I mean, how long are we talking, and do you have to renew the system? How do you maintain it?
That depends if you play with them or not, okay? If you let your brain organoids basically in what we call an orbital shaker, okay? Which is in the dark in an incubator, okay? You don't touch them, okay? Just change the medium once a week.
Yeah.
You can keep them for years. Okay? Actually, your neurons are made to live 100 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
You're going to use the same neurons basically all your life. Okay?
Yeah.
Not new neurons.
So there is a good lifespan there.
But maybe you'll build new connections, but not new neurons. Okay. Well, and there is a number of results that show that we can have also stem cells, and some areas of our neurons in our brain can create new neurons, but this is really minor. Okay?
Yeah.
You shouldn't consider this.
Okay.
So what I was saying. So now if you put them on the electrodes, then the lifespan is going to reduce dramatically.
Yeah.
Okay. It's going to be from a few days or few weeks to several months.
Okay.
So the variability is really, really huge. Okay?
Yeah.
And we were working on this.
But I suppose there are ways to then regenerate and to, I guess, maintain the lifespan, or to work with how much you stimulate it as well.
Yes, there are also the setup that you're using. Okay, there are two types of setup. Basically, either you have the brain organoids totally immersed in liquid, okay, which is one setup, immersive.
We're just getting sci-fi vibes again of brains in jars with neon green lights in a dark lab.
Or you can have it with an air liquid interface.
Okay.
This is what you can see if you come to our website, where basically you have a medium flowing, and you have a porous membrane above it. You have the electrodes, and then you have the brain organoids.
Okay.
And it's humidified through permeability of the membrane.
Yeah.
Okay. So in this case, you are really almost exposed to the air. Activity is very good, very quick. You put your brain organoids, you have activity in 10 minutes, but the lifespan is shorter. So this is what we are working on.
But nevertheless, I think there's already promising results and possibilities. I think it's nice to know that when you have a concern in this kind of field, you still have plenty of ways you can try and test it and, I guess, improve upon it.
Oh, yes. We are not lacking some ideas to improve. Yeah.
No, definitely. we're using the word biocomputing, but apparently it's known by a few other terms. And I've sort of done a bit of a collection because I do like myself a good terminology discussion. We have had this on numerous occasions on the podcast in the topic of nature-based solutions, and I think also recently in some other topics. But biocomputing, actually, when I did a plain Google search, it gets mixed up with bioinformatics, which is definitely not the same thing.
You're right. Yeah.
But if you do struggle, there are other terms, and they've known it as organic computing, biological hardware, or synthetic biological intelligence, or organoid intelligence. And one, as I mentioned earlier in the sci-fi from Neuromancer directly inspired, is wetware, as opposed to hardware.
Yes, I love it.
So, I mean, first of all, there seems to be this acknowledgement of a lack of common terminology and nomenclature. But I guess, what's your stance on the terminology debate in this field?
Well, I think you've said everything I had to say. It's a perfect summary of the situation here. I love wetware computer. It's referenced by Wikipedia, by the way. Biocomputing is more known, actually. But as you said, you will find a lot of work done by Microsoft on biocomputing, which has nothing to do with biocomputing because of biological computing, as you mentioned. Okay, and if you talk about organoid intelligence, for instance, which has been proposed, for instance, by Hartung and Kagan, I love it. Okay, because there is OI and there's AI. So
interesting.
It's very, very good. Okay, the problem is, very few people are working on organoid intelligence. We are one of the few. Okay. Most of the people who are doing biocomputing are not using organoids. They are using adherent 2D layers of cells. Okay. So it's not wrong, but it's very specific to a narrow field of biocomputing. So I'm not sure I can conclude on this.
It'd probably be an ecosystem. I mean, we had the term artificial intelligence, and now it seems to have split into AI and machine learning to try and differentiate between the generative AI aspects as well as the classical machine learning. And I think it's a matter of time before the semantics start to find a hierarchy. I mean, I can talk for hours on the nature-based side of things when we talk about nature-based solutions, blue-green infrastructures, or water-sensitive urban design. But yeah, I guess over time, terminology might find its place.
Yes.
But thanks for the clarification. I think it's nice to see where also some aspects are motivated from, as well as, the sci-fi reference to Neuromancer in wetware computing. Let's get into the main argument here. I think one of the biggest arguments and where we're heading with biocomputing especially, and that is the energy consumption. I mean, again, highlighting the stats, we've got AI, in full swing. Data centers becoming a new talk. I mean, I think one of Meta's new data centers is the size of Manhattan. I mean, when we think of Moore's law, number of transistors doubling every 2 years, which NVIDIA claims that they're much faster than that. But we also know that we are reaching the limits of the material as well as, light speed. And the only reason we need to keep improving hardware is so that we can train these AI models. Problem is energy consumption, heat generation. I think there's an estimate that data centers by 2034 are going to be using 1,580 terawatts yearly. So that's basically how much India uses in electricity. It's a ridiculous amount of energy required to run our current systems. Compared to that, I mean, if we think a supercomputer, 40 megawatts of power to function, our brain runs on roughly 20 watts. And this was directly taken from the Bloomberg documentary that I watched where you were featured. I mean, they make that comparison, which I really liked. It's LED light bulbs versus thousands of houses. And so, our brains, that we have about 86 billion neurons and about 100 trillion connections. Our current AI systems using classical artificial neural networks can't get anywhere close to that. I think we're growing, but so will the energy. The energy argument here seems to be a very, very strong argument for why we should be going more and more into biocomputing.
Yeah, well, first, of course, this is a rational argument. Okay, that makes sense. I just want to highlight that, I love science fiction. Okay, so the first argument is that I just love the idea. Okay. Just to put the things in the right order. Okay, and this has never been done. This is fascinating, and that's enough for me. Okay, now you're right. Okay, instead of trying to simulate, let's use the real thing. Okay, it has been already optimized by hundreds of millions of years of evolution. Okay, and now, if you think about how many neurons you need to simulate one biological neuron, There has been some publications about this.
Okay.
So that's very interesting. And for how long, by the way? So, and that means how long of the stimulation will be realistic, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's like for a few seconds, okay, you would need thousands of artificial neurons to simulate just one biological neuron.
Wow.
So this also comes into play.
Talking about scale here.
So it's a different kind of animal. And now we say 1 million doesn't mean that our goal is really to create a bioserver. Okay, we want to be a competitor of Amazon Web Services in 10 years. We want to have this. Okay, now it doesn't mean that our server will be 1 million times more efficient. Okay, because you have to factor in many things to have all these living neurons. There is still electronics. There are still a number of things. Okay, but when you start with 1 million, okay, even if you end with 100. 100 times more efficient. Basically, you have the ratio between light bulbs and LED. So basically, where you had a problem before, you don't have a problem after.
So, I mean, it doesn't have to be dramatic leaps, but significant improvement already. And that's a benefit either way.
Oh, yeah, at 100, I would say it's already very significant. Because it's cheating, basically, because you something that is already working. So it's a very conservative approach. I mean, but, when people tell me, quantum computers, this is really disruptive. This does not exist in nature.
I was actually going to touch upon that too, because that is really the third elephant in the room. Because there's been a lot of talk recently also about quantum computing making some progress, except that when I think about it, like it only works at very low temperatures or close to basically zero. And so that in itself is a huge energy sink as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not sure that here they're looking specifically at energy efficiency.
Yeah.
But for sometimes of combinatory works, for instance, this may be very well applicable, okay? And I think there is a nice complementary thing here because we are not going to do number crunching with biocomputers. Okay, so they will do it. That's perfect. Perfect word. And we are both, I feel some sympathy for quantum computers. First, because I love quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
Okay.
You did mention that much earlier.
And also because we both belong to a very minor field, which is called unconventional computing method. And you've cited several of them with DNA computing, for instance, or bacteria. Okay. So we are probably the most two famous alternative way to compute. So
I like that. Unconventional. Being different.
Yeah, unconventional. and I love to be different and to be unconventional. That's spice of life. So
yeah, it's definitely in your nature. But yeah, I guess, as you said, the solution or the ideal world would be you'd have number crunching handled by one, and I guess a lot of the learning and other aspects handled by another even.
Yeah, and both interacting together. That can work also very well, actually. Already right now, we are already, for instance, sometimes using artificial neural networks to design training algorithms for our biological neural networks.
Okay. Do tell me more.
Well, what do we have to do, basically? We have to send the right stimulation at the right time, okay, based on the activity we have measured.
Yeah.
Okay? It's a complex mapping, okay? When to do what. And it looks like interpolation problems, actually, multidimensional, when you have to find the optimal solution. And one way to do this is actually to use artificial networks.
True.
Okay? So this is one of the directions that we've been using for a lot of time. Imagine, did you know about autoencoders?
Autoencoders.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read a bit about them, yeah.
Okay. So with autoencoders, basically, you are using an artificial neural network, multi-layered, for instance, and you're going to have identity. So you want to have one multidimensional signal as input, one multidimensional output, and we want both to be the same. Output equal to input, very easy. Okay, yeah. But there is a trick. In between these layers, you are going to have less and less neurons at the center. Okay, so when you do this, you do dimensionality reduction. You reduce the number of dimensions of your signal. Okay, why is it important? Why am I telling you this? Okay, because when you measure neurons, you have a lot of dimensions. You have a lot of electrodes and a lot of signals, and the time is passing. So a lot of data. Okay, and one problem that we have is to get lost into the data.
Yes.
Okay. So instead of being lost into the dimensionality, you want to reduce the dimension of your problem. And one way to do this is to use autoencoders. So then you are going to have a few abstract dimensions where you can represent the state of your biological neural networks like a point, but a point, instead of being in 1,000 dimensions, is a point in, for instance, 2 or 3 dimensions.
Much less, yeah.
Much less, okay? So this is one example of using artificial neurons. Now, I would say philosophically, think about this, what I love. When you think about artificial networks, sometimes people say, well, hey, guy, it's a black box. We don't really, And
I've heard that too many times.
yeah. But let me tell you even better, okay? When you work with brain organoids, don't you think it's even more impressive black box?
I think so.
Okay. And then you are piling black box basically when you're using artificial neural networks in order to interact with biological networks. So, and one could say, well, this is bad. We cannot do things that we don't understand. I would say the opposite. I would say the exact opposite. If you do only what you understand, you limit what you do to what you can understand.
That is true. Yeah.
Okay.
And essentially, one black box plus another black box equals a black box. It's like infinity plus infinity is infinity. that is some of the math I do understand.
And I would say, I know experimental science, I think, often has evolved before the theory to explain it. Like planes, for instance. Bernoulli law came after people were able to have planes fly, for instance. So
yeah, I guess sometimes you have to build it and then try to explain it afterwards, because that way you deepen your understanding into it. I mean, I think that's in a way how we've also seen the progression of some of the generative AI we've seen now, where we began with large language models, and because we have one, they have something to test. And now people are talking about small language models or retrieval augmented generation to try and refine some of the training in these models. But I think without the large language model to begin with, which I think we couldn't explain as well, we wouldn't be making these jumps and leaps into new dimensions of it or an understanding of it.
But the thing is that you get momentum if you have something working.
That's true. That's true. Very true. So, I mean, we've gone so deep on a lot of these aspects. And I guess also the one very essential thing that we should probably mention is these computers should operate at 37 degrees Celsius, normal human body temperature as well. Yep, so right. It's good to know. But it just hammers home the biological nature of it. But I guess, you at FinalSpark, as you mentioned before, you want to develop this server, this biological server. And in a way, you've got this platform called the Neural Platform. And you've actually already opened it up to people from universities being able to then test some of the ideas with it. Tell me a bit about how this came about and where it's heading.
Well, it came because of the COVID. Because, during the COVID, we could not come to the lab. And because we could not come to the lab, we developed some systems to work remotely from home on our neurons.
Yeah.
It was just, everything what I'm telling about this story is just about luck and just coincidence. I mean, I would love to have a vision on something, but it's not the case. And at the end of the COVID, we were able to operate everything. Basically, including the microfluidics. And then we thought maybe some university would be interested also to perform some experiments, remotely. And we are so amazed by the number we had 34 universities which directly went to us. Yeah, we want to use it.
I mean, that's great attention.
Yeah, well,
that you're getting.
Yeah. So so we had actually to perform a selection process. To say, okay, guys. So it built up very naturally, organically. Because then we published on GitHub API so people can use it.
Yeah.
We started to do some technical support. Well, it's for free for university working on our topic, which is training of this. So, and we put in place a process because we had way more coming some universities. So how do we select the best? So we had to have some rules, so scientifically, does it make sense for us? Is it something that we have already tested, or is it new ideas? Is it in the capabilities of our neural platform? So basically, neural platform, we can stimulate, we can do this number of things, but not more, And what is the motivation of those people, Are they very motivated or not? Can we feel this? Very important. And I just don't care whether they are students in their room or a very high-ranking professor. I just do not care. I just judge by the ideas.
Interesting. Yeah. But it's I guess a vetting process because there's only so many neurons to go around.
Yes. So actually we put in place a booking process.
Yeah.
So that actually the neurons are used 24/7.
Yeah.
The universities are just relaying each 24/7 using them. So
I mean, these applications I've read about, some are robotics, but also some Some are for really teaching these unconventional computation methods.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a whole range. And I guess that's ideal because now you're exploring the potentials and also areas for improvement for particular applications.
Yes, absolutely. We even have, I mean, it started like this, like for free, like open innovation. Okay, cool. Okay, let's do it. And that's funny. But then some company came and company said, we want to work, but on something else, but we are ready to pay.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, let's say, I don't know, $500. What do you say for 1 month? The guy said, okay, no problem. And then we had another company coming, and I said, okay, that's too many. We were still losing money on this. I said, let's take $1,000. We will be okay. And then some companies came on coming. So we said, let's say $2,000. Then we stopped. And now we are at $5,000.
Oh, wow. As a startup, I guess you learn to price things as you go. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. But the strategy was more to refuse customer than something else, to put the bar as, I know. The problem is that we are in Switzerland, we are very expensive here, okay?
Sure.
And the culture of the company was more about research. It was not about making money with the neural platform, which actually we are starting to make money with the neural platform, but it was not the intent, actually.
I guess your original intent, you're a deep tech startup. So that means you're really developing that fundamental technology, not necessarily for the end user, but in a way to then find ways to use it later on in, I guess, other companies or in a follow-up.
Yeah, correct. And you're right that there are also now universities that want to pay not to do some research, but for students.
Yeah. Interesting. But you've also had work with artists as well who wanted to use it.
Okay. Well, first, you cannot imagine the number of people who come to us from every direction with every kind of ideas. Okay. So this is very difficult. I guess we have over 50 to 100 emails per day to process. Okay. So and some of them are artists, right?
Okay.
And so I'm not too much into artistic thing. I play music. I love artists, but I mean, this looks like really weird. Okay.
It's not as mathematical, is it?
Okay. I made the move from mathematics to neurobiology now. Don't ask me for another one. So, but we had this guy actually coming from Zurich.
Okay.
Switzerland. And these were the only from Switzerland that I remember. They said, we want to make an interactive painting. That means something, and they did it.
Yeah.
Okay. They did something like you have a piece of, I don't know, like latex or a bit flexible cover, and you can touch with your hand. And when you press on it somewhere, it's going to stimulate remotely some neurons in our lab.
Yeah.
And if some other neurons answer, some part of this rubber sheet is going to be deformed accordingly. So you can actually physically touch and interact with human neurons remotely in real time. Haptic experience.
Insane.
And I must say that I said, wow, I didn't think about this. I understand why sometimes these artists have a view on things that I wouldn't have, I must admit.
That's incredible. But I guess it's also an outreach because essentially you start to show people the power of biocomputing and the potential as well.
Yes. And it's very sci-fi also. So I was so happy. And and the guy were artists. So they were not easy actually to reach. They did we gave access, we gave the API because there were also good engineers there. Okay. Yeah. And they did the whole thing. And when I saw the result, well, we have to talk more to them because that's incredible.
It's incredible seeing how much visibility it's getting. And you've been actually interviewed a lot as well as featured in quite a few different magazines and in journals as well. I think the most recent one was in Nature. I think you just posted it a day or two ago.
You've seen that.
Yeah. So it's incredible work that's happening.
But you have to imagine 18 months ago, we were totally unknown. Okay, zero. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was feeling like we sort of matter what. I mean, nobody cares about what we're doing. I feel it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I really felt we are on something. It's not possible that people are not interested by this. It's so fascinating. And still I was thinking, when you think something hard, and the world doesn't think like you have to conclude that you think wrong. Nobody cares, Fred. It's in your head.
There's always the worry about non-conformity.
Yeah. And but at some point, I think what made the difference is the publications in Frontiers. Because before it was like a bunch of people doing random things and maybe it's not serious, okay?
Yeah.
And then you have the publication. And it was my first publication since 30 years. Okay. Because with AlpVision, or maybe 25 years. Okay. Yeah. With AlpVision, I stopped publishing. And it was, at the end of the day, it became one of the publications the most read of Frontiers, 99%.
Wow.
Most read. But you have to realize that a few months before publishing this, I was like, we stop. We don't publish this because I'm bored. I'm fed up with this publication. Okay. I felt like doing the PhD. I want to stop it.
I know that feeling doing my own publications. At some point, you're like, can I just not see this paper anymore? I'm sick of reading the same introduction.
Yeah. And also, nobody will care because nobody never cares about biocomputing and what we're doing. So what is the purpose of all this? I'm just wasting my time. Because and then there was people saying, yes, let's do it. So finally we did it. But hopefully we did it.
No, that's incredible. We'll have to put a link to that in the show notes as well. I think it gives a nice overview as well.
Yeah, nothing genius. If you read the publication, don't expect anything. It's just purely technical engineering stuff about what we're doing. So there's no fantastic discovery here. So.
But hey, definitely enlightening, if anything. So yeah. So what's the plan going forward for FinalSpark? Where are you at now and where are you moving in the next, I guess, 5 to 10 years?
Okay, so there are two different trajectories depending on the money, actually, basically.
Okay.
So either we raise, let's say, 50 million Swiss francs, okay, 50, and then we can actually hire way more people and test many things in parallel, okay? Or if we don't, and then we have to rely on our own resources. And then we are going to be always try to refine what we have. And so I think we can increase the number of electrodes, the number of neurons, a number of things, and we have to increase the lifespan. This is absolutely mandatory. But we just broke our records, I think last week. Now we are 7.5 months. Okay. So I think we have a good direction.
Yeah.
Now, thinking about science, maybe I can tell you about how we use LLM.
Yeah, sure. Do tell me. I'm curious.
Because you're going to love this one.
Okay.
Because normally, when you do science, as we do, what do we do? You design an experiment, select some electrodes, what you are going to spike, which algorithm you are going to use. You run the experiment. You look at the result. If it works, you're skeptical and say probably it's an artifact and it's not true, and you're looking for where it works.
Yeah, I never trust code if it runs perfectly the first time. I'm like, this could not have worked. It has a bug somewhere.
So we have the same feeling because we don't care about publishing. We care about making things work. So if it works, and then you do it again, okay? And we've been doing this for years now.
Rinse and repeat.
Yeah, but there is a better way now.
Okay.
Which we started to do 4 weeks ago.
Which is?
Don't you guess?
AI agents.
Yeah.
Because what better way to do the whole thing than have an AI do it for you, right?
Yeah, correct. So actually, ChatGPT agent, okay, which is able. So we say, for instance, I want you to find a way to increase the spontaneous activity of this biological neural network. Okay.
Yeah.
So I give you the power to stimulate directly the neurons. Okay.
Okay.
So I give you the API. I give you the power to read the neurons. Okay. Do report to me what you are going to do, why you're going to do it, what result you got, and what you're going to do next.
The human element in the loop.
Well, yeah, at least that we are.
Probably good to have.
And so basically, what I'm describing is what I was describing before about what we are doing between humans when we decide experiments. Okay. And it does it. One experiment every minute. Okay.
Every minute.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and it can go on forever. And when you look up the prompt and the reasons, it makes sense for us. We are really expert on this, on the neural platform and the neurons, where we really know our stuff, okay?
Yeah.
It may not be sufficient, but we know some things. And what he proposes makes sense for us each time, okay?
I mean, with the experience, then you can obviously vet and criticize and refine the prompt as a result based on its output.
Of course, yeah. But I think there is a fundamental difference here. When you have LLM, basically the knowledge is taken from the existing things which have been written before. Okay, as you said about the Neanderthal things that. But there is something new. When you use an agent, It's a slightly different story because you are taking new knowledge. Okay?
From what it generates.
Yeah. So you decide which knowledge to acquire. You acquire it and you conclude for it to refine your knowledge iteratively. It's a different story. It's not the same thing.
Different kind of ball game, and I guess something with a bit more trust there.
Yeah. And I must say the experimental results that we got so far were impressive.
Very impressive.
Quite good. Yeah.
Incredible.
I mean, it's not definitive conclusion. We are still going to run this for months and months to make sure if it's not yet again an artifact.
But essentially, it's an example of two different types of computational systems working together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a chance to show what the future may look like.
Yeah.
And sci-fi, essentially.
Yeah. For the case, it's really sci-fi. I mean,
I'm excited to see how you're going to progress in the coming years. I mean, I said 5 and 10 years just now, but now with an AI agent as well at your disposal, maybe that progress that you envision will happen within the year. Who knows? But very, very excited. So if people want to learn more about this topic of biological computing or wetware computing, where's the best place for them to start?
So we start with something which is the worst place to start. Okay, okay. Because I must say we have a lot of requests, of people who have imagined fantastic theory about neurons and interacting with them. Okay, and there is no science behind that theory, and they believe intuition is enough. Okay, I tell you, it's not enough. Okay, if you have a good science understanding and you add a thin layer of intuition, that's okay. Yeah, but not the other way around. So, just to be clear, because we have too many requests, which are and when I see the energy of people, they spend a lot of energy on their work that they submit to me, and it has no value because of this. And if they spend more energy on science, I'm sure they can do wonderful things. Yeah. Okay. So now, if you want to study this, you have to study neurobiology. Okay. You have to understand what is known about neurons, and some things are totally unknown, but some things are very, very well known. Okay. So one thing. Now you can also read our publication. And you can Google Frontiers FinalSpark, you will find it, but you will find also all the reference we give in our publication that you can, and you should also read. Okay. So that's the basis of what you should know. Okay, you have to know AI. Okay, and not about simply prompting things. Okay, I was talking about autoencoders before. That means you have to master signal processing, mathematical transform, and things like this. Okay. Now, if you want to do into experimental science, as we do, you have to know about being a skeptic about when you have measurements, and so really about science. Okay, and if you really want to work here, there is something that you can do is to work as an intern. And we always have one intern at FinalSpark, so we take 2 per year. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
But they always come from one specific location, most of them, okay, from NeuroX Master of the EPFL. So one golden way to come here as an intern is to do NeuroX Master of EPFL.
Okay.
And we have one PhD that we contribute to. So this is another way to move in the direction. And of course, you can go to the Discord server when we have a Discord, and you can ask your question here. You go in the question section. Don't email me. Okay, that's a pity because if I reply in the Discord, everybody can see the reply. Okay, so whoever you are, you're welcome to come here and ask your questions.
But you've given a good illustration of the level of knowledge, I think, that is involved in this kind of discipline, in this domain. And I think we'll definitely link the paper as well as the references. I do like a good daisy chain or snowballing of references of papers to learn more. And listeners, AI knowledge, go deep into it if you do want to familiarize yourself with it. And perhaps this episode is that benchmark, or hopefully serves as that benchmark, barring my lack of mathematical depth. But nevertheless, definitely useful resources. So thank you for those tips. Fred, this has been incredible. The amount we've covered today and the depth we've covered. Biocomputing has shed a completely new light on unconventional computing techniques in my mind. And I mean, as much as a blast as it has also been to prepare for this particular episode, because it's really unknown territory that I've ventured into. But like I do with every guest, I'd love to ask you a few questions that I ask all my guests so that listeners can get to know even more about you, even though we've learned so much already about how you've gone from chasing supercomputers to your love for sci-fi. But I guess, innovation, that's really a key word here. And you've mentioned disruption as well. So in your mind, what does the word innovation and, for that matter, disruption truly mean? And how has it shaped the way you approach the challenges and opportunities in your work?
Well, it's first about excitement, okay? So, and there is maybe some commonalities between the two companies is to do things in a different manner of what other people do and taking some shortcuts. And this is a common point between the two things. But these are abstract shortcuts here. And if you think about it, FinalSpark, if you think about biocomputing, the shortcut is say, okay, instead of simulating a neuron, I'm going to take a neuron. Yeah. That's all. This is the only idea.
Because that seemingly simplicity is the gem.
But incredible, it's not even new.
Yeah.
Because in sci-fi, it's known since some time, okay? So I think it goes beyond just taking shortcuts. It's taking shortcuts, but not only intellectually, really doing it. So doing your shortcut, okay? So there is a big difference. So there are two things here, shortcut and doing it.
Oh, very simple summary of it, but very cool. So you mentioned the sci-fi books. We had lengthy discussions about it. But, what other key moments, people, or events completely changed the course of your career or your mindset?
I must say that when I met two professors in neurobiology, Professor Markram and Professor Stopini, and these people were totally out of my universe, hundreds of light years away.
This was when you were starting to learn about biology and gaining a lot of the knowledge.
Yeah, correct. And this was a really hard turn in my life, okay? Because before, it was only about computers and mathematics all my life, okay? So it was very, very logic and simple thing. And I took this at age of 45, okay?
Changing discipline then, yeah.
So yeah, I would see this the most important turning point.
And I guess that learning experience and where you are at with FinalSpark really shows that, at any point in your life, if you want to make that turn and you're passionate about it, you'll be able to learn it.
Yeah, this is a very encouraging thing for everybody and for me in particular, okay? Because I'm not very good at learning things. A lot of motivation, but not very good abilities. I must also say something else. I discovered that innovation often lies in the intersection of different fields, which normally do not meet. Okay, and with AlpVision, it was the field of industrial printing and digital watermarking.
Yeah,
these things are not meant to work together. These are different universes, but by mixing them, we develop new technologies. So it's the same for biocomputing, I think.
No, incredible. So AlpVision, FinalSpark, as well as your interest for sci-fi, lots of things to manage, and so time management is often a very interesting topic to discuss here. So, what tips and strategies can you offer in terms of time management? How do you balance your professional and your personal time? I mean, we can see they're very intertwined, but yeah.
But surprisingly, I don't work that much.
Okay.
So, well, it's very structured. Okay. The time I have for FinalSpark are defined times in my agenda, and people are not allowed to book it for meetings. Okay. Unless this is for FinalSpark meetings.
Okay.
And the same stands for AlpVision. Okay. So there is some structural element here in my life. I have delegated more and more things as time go by. Okay. It was difficult for me. And I realized that after all that it was better like this. I thought that people would do not as good as me, and this is the opposite, which they do actually better than me. So it was delegating. Okay. So, and trying to focus on always what is most important, what you really believe in your heart is most important for you. And I'm quite focused.
And I guess once you have designated time blocks for it, it allows you to be more focused because you have a time limit to work on it.
Yes. Yeah. That's a very important thing.
Yeah.
You have a deadline each time because
you're giving yourself personal daily deadlines essentially, or even weekly deadlines in that regard.
Yeah.
No, very good advice. And I think it's something I have to definitely do a lot more in my life as well, to do the time blocking and to really allocate it.
And to respect it, yeah.
And to respect it. That's often the most difficult part. Because you're like, no, I can do another half an hour. It's fine. But in fact, yeah, if you say, no, stop, you can continue it the next time you have it. You're actually more excited to come back to it.
Yeah,
too.
the thing is that if you don't lie to yourself once, you will learn better actually, because you know that you can trust yourself. And last time you say, no, I will really stop. So
very good advice, actually. What's your favorite childhood memory?
There is something I didn't talk about actually, is I love model airplanes. Yeah, I just love it. And when I was young, I did a lot. Okay, I'm still doing it actually. And it's about building airplanes and making them fly. Okay, and for me, it's a fantastic thing, a childhood memory. And something else, I guess, when I had my first program working in BASIC on my Spectrum ZX81 when I was so young, and it was, that's what I want to do always.
Incredible. Yeah, actually, I remember using QBasic back in my day, and the first program that worked, and then you start to put colors on it. And
Which computer that was?
This was when we actually had personal compers with an Intel Pentium 2, I think.
Oh, no, it's way too sophisticated. Okay.
But still, we have these moments, our first programming language.
Yeah.
But model airplanes, like these are the handheld size or much bigger ones?
Like 1 meter or 2 of span.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
and there is also something when I started to do robotics.
Okay.
I started to do robotics in my basement, a robot arm first, and then a spider. And I bought many small electric motors, and I designed the electronics and controlled them with my PC. And that was also a fantastic journey.
You remind me of the first time I learned electrical circuits in school. We were also buying mini motors and light bulbs. And actually, I think we combined it with art class, where we had to try and build a little interior and light it with the circuit. Not much computer involved there, but yeah, I guess had I done that more, I might have gone into that field as well.
Well, electronics, when you interface with computer, the first time I made address decoding on the address bus of my PC. So I designed electronic systems to recognize some specific address and get the word that was passing on the data bus. Okay. And then by programming in a machine language, I was able to light some bulbs at the end to have my robot arm working. That was fascinating because I designed something that I could not see that was going so fast, like 1 million times per second, and was still able to master it. It was fascinating. I knew theoretically what was going on, but I couldn't see it. And
it's mind-blowing when that happens. Yeah, when you press play button on your code, you run it and you see something happen.
Yeah.
I can definitely agree with that experience. My first UI and a software design as well.
Yes, it's magic.
It gives you so many more ideas. And so, what was one of the most challenging situations that you've ever faced in your career to date, and how did you overcome it?
Well, first, completing my PhD. I was just, I wanted to stop. Okay. So, no.
Sounds like a rite of passage for many.
Yes, you're right. It's not original. Well, you have also, when you have 2 child, now the old, like more than 20. Okay. And you're building a company. It can be a difficult, lot of work. So this is more a general tension to bring your company to profitability and to be independent, and at the same time having your child is not easy. This was, I think, the most challenging thing.
But I guess time management, you learn from that.
I don't know if I learned from that. I learned the hard way.
But sometimes that's what molds you and gives you that discipline as well that you can apply. And I guess learn it early and it becomes easier later on, right?
Yeah. But there is another dimension, okay, in these challenges is also my wife, because we met, I told you before at an engineering school like 35 years ago. So, and she has also a PhD. She's in charge of the patents of FinalSpark and AlpVision. Yeah. So it means that there is always a connection between private and professional, which eases also the things.
Yeah. But I guess, we face these challenges, and I think it's a very common thing, but it didn't stop you from pursuing your interest, pursuing your dreams, and you made it work, essentially, at the end of the day.
Well, yeah. I still have some very serious progress to do on biocomputers to make them train successfully each time.
And so for, I guess, young entrepreneurs, young mathematicians, young professionals, what advice can you offer them starting out?
I can give very, very good advice on what not to do. It was not the intent of your question, I guess.
Hey, it's also advice.
I must say that I always loved doing what I was doing, whether for both companies, okay, because it made sense for me.
Yeah.
So you do things quite effortless. If you love programming, okay, and you have to program for your business, then you love your business, basically, okay. So it's a pleasure each time. So I think it's very fundamental just to make sure that you are working what you love. And the second thing is that you are working with people you like, because that's the dream. Doing what you like with people you like. Okay, so
simple but powerful. And I certainly know when I'm doing what I love, it does feel effortless.
Yeah, I see that when you do the podcast, I can see that it's something that inspires you. Okay, you're always smiling. You are
definitely
happy to be there, actually, and I think it's a good indicator.
No, thank you. I'm glad you see it that way, because I really do enjoy doing the podcast and just learning lots, especially in our episode today. So, Fred, the existential question that all my guests have been getting this year is, what would you most like to be remembered for?
First, I don't want to die. so that won't be remembered. But as one of the people who worked initially in biocomputing, yes, that would be already cool. Okay, but I hope maybe we can be more ambitious and think even further than biocomputers. Okay, what is biocomputer basically? Think about this. You have artificial things. On this table, we have a lot of artificial things. Okay, and we have living things.
Yeah.
Around here, there is only you and me.
At the moment, two people sitting on chairs, yes.
Unless you have some yaourt, some
probably some bacterium.
Yes, right. Yeah. And we are used to see the world this way. Okay, I propose another way. Okay, and biocomputer is one of the example. Okay, it's something which is in between. Is it living or is it a machine? Or is it just in between? Okay, and I think there's been some people who realized in sometimes that there is something which is not good with technology, is that it's far away from us as human beings, as living beings, okay? And I think it would be good to close the gap, okay? You see where I'm going again. So what things which are also from the science fiction, okay? So I don't invent anything as usual. And so imagine objects like your bottle here. You've been drinking this bottle from the beginning, okay?
Yeah.
Imagine that you have a living bottle, okay? It looks like a bottle, but it's not entirely artificial. When you use it, it senses exactly which molecule you have in your mouth.
Yeah.
And in reaction, as a closed loop manner, is going to give you some molecules which are good for your health.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not fully artificial. It's not fully living. It's just hybrid in between. This is even more ambitious than only biocomputers.
That is very ambitious.
Really
but as you said, sci-fi. I mean, I think through this episode today, our listeners have gotten a very nice to-read list of sci-fi, and we'll definitely include more interesting ones that I've taken note of in the show notes as well. So do check those out. But I guess as the man who has a lot of these ambitious ideas and is really transforming them and making progress in them, and it's incredible to see. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch? Well,
there is this Discord server. There is also the LinkedIn, but it's less reliable. And we have also one of our members, Evelina, is also in charge of communication with people. You can also write to her. Okay. If you come to us with ideas, really do your technical work before. Okay. So that's very important. This is one of the big things we check from the early beginning. As the person has some background, we have some people who work as I would say as ambassador. I would say trying to spread the word about what we are doing at FinalSpark. So this is the different kind of interaction. So if you feel like you want to be an ambassador, we're not going to pay you. Let's be clear. Okay. But if you're inspired by what we do, we can find some way to work together here.
Yeah, you've heard that, listeners. So definitely get in touch in the Discord channel. I think that's a nice way to interact and also to generate knowledge that is accessible to everyone.
Yes.
And I guess a direct way of getting in touch with you. And then there's also LinkedIn and the socials. So we'll definitely put that as well as links and resources to everything we've discussed on today's show in the show notes so that you can learn a lot more about this incredible field that is just only going to be growing more and more. But Fred, it's been incredible having you on the show, going into such depth and just opening my eyes on unconventional computing methods, as well as my Christmas sci-fi to-read list. But I'm truly grateful for your time and for welcoming here in Vevey for this incredible episode.
Thank you. That was really fun. Very deep questions from, I see someone who has been studying the topic before coming in details.
And yeah, thank you. And like I do with every guest, I always give my guest the final words. So one last message for the listeners to take away from today, whatever you'd like.
Something obvious, I think it's very good to listen to podcasts, interviews. I do it every day. I listen to podcasts, and particularly to long podcasts. And particularly also to people who are totally alien for me, working in different topics, just to open your mind. And I think it's a good thing I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. And that wraps up our mind-blowing, enlightening, and incredible episode with Fred Jordan. For more information on AI versus OI versus quantum computing, a guide on anti-counterfeiting technologies, or the top 10 must-read science fiction novels, check out the show notes for more information over at petermbach.com/podcast. And as always, thank you listeners for tuning in to this episode and for your feedback and support. If you are enjoying this show, I would be incredibly grateful if you could share this podcast with your family, friends, colleagues, and even fellow entrepreneurs. Subscribe or follow this podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, other podcast channels, or follow the LinkedIn group to stay up to date with the latest releases. If you're curious about me or my work in general, you can also check out my website or social media. Head to petermbach.com, my YouTube channel Peter Marcus Bach, that's Marcus with a C, or follow me on X at petermbach or Instagram at petermbach87. Feel free to reach out to me with any feedback or guest suggestions so that I can keep improving this show. The podcast's intro and outro song is called Starsky by Alex Guerin. The podcast will return in February 2026 with brand new episodes and even more inspiring guests who are tackling the many grand challenges in our rapidly changing world. Stay tuned and thank you for following the show.